looking at least the first year to earn 600,000 shillings per month from the 400,000 shillings. And we calculated it is just something like 400 billions for a financial year for a primary teacher to shift from earning 400,000 shillings to 600,000 shillings, which we feel is possible with the budget we see here. Right Honorable Speaker, the other issue is placements, and it is becoming a challenge. The register about which schools have staff quarters, building staff quarters has become a members of parliament function. It is too much, Right Honorable Speaker. Members of parliament cannot part with their salary yearly to build these staff quarters. We request that the ministry takes a register of which schools, public schools, have staff quarters, and then we can be able at least to stand behind government. But members of parliament to lead this, it is too much on us, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This one is Mayanja, Honorable Mayanja Alan. I'm Alan Sewanyana, so A first.
Yes.
You are coming next, my young brother. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for that very good debate. I thank the Minister of Education for giving us a good statement. As people of Kampala, we are very grateful that this year's belated ceremony is going to be in Kampala at Rugogo. But, Honorable Minister, we have had very many issues, even in Kampala here, which people don't expect to be in the capital city, especially the issue of the staff quarters being very limited. I have an example of Police Children's School here in Kampala, where the staff do not have houses to reside in. It is only a few, especially those who have relatives in the police quarters, can have good accommodation, at least affordable accommodation. Others are lacking. It has now become a burden to us as members of parliament to continue explaining to them of to when and why they don't have such quotas. Secondly, Madam Speaker, the new teachers bill, which is being discussed by Parliament here, gave a proposal of a minimum bachelor's degree for a teacher. Today we are celebrating teachers who are yet to reach that level. I think on this day, most of them who are yet to reach that level. I think on this day, when celebrating it next Saturday, the government should at least put more confidence in the current teachers, because they have done so much of a work to us as a country during the past few years.
Thank you.
So we need them to be given at least some assurance of having their jobs secure when
Flavia.
in transition. I thank you,
Flavia.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm a teacher of English language and literature in English, and I taught for close to 9 years. Namilyango College and Our Lady of Good Counsel, Gayaza. So these issues are issues of generals of us, the teachers today, not generals of the other ones. I just wanted to say that. And I want to appreciate teachers all around the world, because especially teachers in Uganda, because I know that despite the fact that they are teaching, there are also certain conditions that are terribly unfair to them, but they are working. So we appreciate them, and I want to appreciate the Ministry of Government, the Ministry of Education, for what they are doing for the teachers. However, we have some challenges which need to address. The very first challenge, I want to add my voice to the discrepancies that are in the teachers' salaries right now as we speak. Teachers in my community in Kasanda, as I was with them, because we celebrated World Teachers' Day as a district, they mentioned that some of their staff members of the arts teachers have sold their ATMs to science teachers. So every time, because of loans, So it's the science teachers that are controlling the arts teachers' salaries because they don't have money. So whenever their accounts, whenever they get the little pay that they have, the science teachers automatically take the money because they are paying back the loans, leaving them with nothing. That means that their situation, especially when it comes to looking after their families, is dire. We are talking about a situation when it comes to welfare. Teachers are teaching children who are hungry, but teachers are even hungrier than the kids that they are teaching. So you find that when at lunchtime, we have staff that are not getting food. And for those some that can afford the food, they are eating portion beans, like, you know, which is in a terrible state. So they were complaining about that welfare as well. Can we find a way of improving staff welfare? I also know that teachers have poor, deplorable living conditions. There are certain schools we visited in Kasanda, teachers' quarters. They are living as if they are prisoners. Even prisoners, I think, have...
Gerald, Margaret.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to thank the Minister for that elaborate report. But there's one point of concern, Madam Speaker, in addition to what my colleague Honorable Chair Chomas raised. There are science teachers who have been appointed administrators of secondary schools. And today, Madam Speaker, to my dismay, there's a head teacher who has declined to pick his appointment letter because he has been earning 4.8 as gross, but the appointment letter that he's getting as an administrator is talking of a lower pay. And therefore, he has declined to pick. He was in my office this morning from Blamboli. This anomaly, last time the Minister of Public Service and Education, when I raised this matter, they said they were going to harmonize it within a period of 1 month. This is now the second month. We're in October. The release was done yesterday by Minister of Finance. My question is, has this been harmonized so that I communicate to my science teachers who are administrators of secondary schools whether this anomaly has been sorted so that they check their bank accounts by the end of the month? Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Margaret. Then workers.
Thank you, Right Honorable.
Solomon.
I want to thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity, as I thank the Minister for the statement. We had our World Teachers' Day in Namaying on 5th, and many teachers were not contented with what is happening. Right Honorable Speaker, teaching is very critical. I'm a teacher by profession, and I know that we are all taught by teachers. And if we want to have real development of our country, then we must strengthen the education sector. But as we speak now, there are many challenges which the sector is facing. For teaching to be effective, the environment must also be good. Right Honorable Speaker, we still have schools in this country where pupils learn under trees. And now for a teacher to go and teach under a tree, no chalkboard, the environment can't be conducive enough for learning to take place. We also have a challenge, Right Honorable Speaker, of some of us who come from hard-to-reach areas. We want to be considered when it comes to staff quarters, because some areas are hard to reach that you cannot even have a house to rent. So you find that teachers do not go to schools to teach because they don't have even where to sleep. So I want to pray to government that you at least give staff quarters to hard-to-reach districts like Namayingo district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Workers.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues. I want to thank the Minister for the statement. Right Honorable Speaker, when science teachers were enhanced, there was a discussion between the government and the leaders. And I remember that meeting, the Vice President actually chaired the meeting. The commitment was, let's start with the science teachers because the resources were meager. And the word was soon, we shall look at the arts teachers. So my question is, when is this commitment really coming out? Because you see, Right Honorable Speaker and members, in the economy, when you measure the HDI, Human Development Index, we have life expectancy, education is number 2. And with proper education, then you widen the perspective of a country. And we are saying in a low income status like academic support. But until we likely actually fall back when the education system is falling. So when is this commitment, Right Honorable Speaker?
Solomon, not you. Chelengat.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, we also had our Teachers' Day some time back in Boko District. But Right Honorable Speaker, this Teachers' Day was the worst attended by teachers in the life of Boko. Why? Because most of our teachers are so much demoralized, Right Honorable Speaker. Colleagues have talked of the discrimination of the science teachers and the arts teachers. But there was also another issue that during the validation exercise by the Auditor General, so many people were affected in Bukwa District, Right Honorable Speaker. And over 250 teachers were affected. They have been coming to Kampala to make clearance with the Auditor General. The cow and his team has been coming, but all the same, up to now, those people have not been paid, Right Honorable Speaker. It is my opinion, Right Honorable Speaker, that the minister gets concerned and see how best these teachers are helped, because most of our teachers are not being paid now. They have children to educate, they have other issues that they have to settle, like any other human being, like any other parent. So these people need to be helped, Right Honorable Speaker. I thank you very much.
Rita.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable
Rita,
Speaker.
Mitoma, Isaac. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Right Honorable. I want to say that as a principal
Hey,
mother,
Isaac, where have you been?
having nurtured and the home being the first school, I really want to share this joy with the teachers, to join them and celebrate this day, and congratulate them for choosing to be teachers beyond the home, which really I don't take that privilege. Right Honorable Speaker, it is very alarming to find that we have a universal primary education, universal secondary education, and you go to a school that has over 1,600, and then you find a school only pays about, the government only pays about 30 teachers. What happens to the rest? The rest of the teachers are being sponsored by the fees that is being collected. I know His Excellency has appealed so many times that UPE needs to be free. But through you, Right Honorable and the Minister of Education, I would want to carry my voice to His Excellency that free education as a woman and an advocate for a girl child, I support it wholly. But that is one area that we appeal to him to do. The other thing, Right Honorable Speaker, is the looming epidemic of children, especially in private schools, who carry heavy bags on their backs. I thank the teachers for doing that work. But for asking young children to carry counter books, we were in Ankole for a surgical camp that covered 13 districts. The report that came...
Is that true that private schools do what?
They carry counter books, very many books. And the Association of Surgeons told us that they needed to go to schools to be able to check the backs of young children.
Honorable Yeri, can you respond to that? He's an investor. Victorious.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. It depends on the age. It depends on the age, but it is not they don't carry the books, but it is the bag. The bag, yes. it depends on the age and really what you are using for cash.
Thank you,
into the
thank
bag.
you.
But I also have something to submit.
Right, Honorable.
No, let him finish. Let
Let
him
me finish.
thank-
He's a proprietor of a school,
Yeah.
Victorious.
Okay. Some food. Madam Honorable Speaker, I wanted to bring the issue of the budget, the emergency money when a natural disaster has happened for these schools. Sometimes there's no money to speed up the calamities which has happened. For example, as we talk now, Manjas High School, rainstorm has hit the school is down, and actually the halls which is supposed to be used for UNEP is down. So we really need the minister's concern to attend to that.
Thank you, thank you. Rita, can you conclude? You know what Honorable is saying? There is a saying that somebody one time said that the alcohol is not a problem, but it's the bottle.
Right, Honorable. For me, I would like to say that education and health are intertwined. So it is very important that the teachers need to interest themselves to make sure that children, as they go in school, they come out healthy. Lastly, right, Honorable, the issue to do with the payment disparities. I would want us that
Honorable members, I don't want anybody to repeat what has been said.
No, right, Honorable, what I'm saying is different. That the Education Service Commission should be able to come up with some sort of a report to tell us, is there a correlation so far between the good payment for science teachers and the improvement in science teaching? We could be running for something where we do not see any results. Thank you, Right Honorable.
Juliet, remember we are acting under Rule 52 and we are already 40 minutes. Juliet.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
There is another teacher behind Achibu. Achibu is a teacher. Yes. Juliet. Yes. Juliet. Honorable members, can we hear from Juliet?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm a teacher by profession, and before I joined politics, I was a director of studies at Rubini Secondary School here in Uruwaga, and Madam Honorable Wabshija was my boss. She was, yes, so I'm not telling any lies. She was my deputy head teacher at Rubini Secondary School. I want to thank the minister for inviting us to celebrate the teachers, and my colleagues and Right Honorable, you will all agree with me that teachers are heroes. So my request, actually mine are almost only requests. I request that we have a public holiday, like we have Heroes Day, to celebrate the teachers. Because you find when others are celebrating, others are in class teaching. I usually see it in my constituency in Mitoma. When the celebrations are in one constituency, you find other constituencies, the schools are operating normally. So I request that if we can have, I have one request, Right Honorable Speaker, another one. Teachers in my constituency have formed associations. They call themselves Teachers in Action. They are the ones now building classrooms, building their accommodation. They are really using their own money to do the work of us and the government.
That's not correct. They should not
On
do
Sunday,
that.
Right Honorable,
They should
I
not do that.
attended a fundraising function where teachers, primary teachers, contributed 50 bags of cement. I was there myself. So I request that really we do our work.
Maybe they are contributing to their community.
They are sleeping in very bad houses and others don't have classrooms. They are the ones rehabilitating the classrooms because of that.
Honorable Minister, you get that?
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Okay. Honorable Chibu Thomas Isaac.
And let them sit down.
Phyllis.
Yeah, thank you very much, the Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank the Minister of
Honorable
Education.
members, some teacher Migu. Honorable members, you have a lot of things to debate. You have a lot to debate. This is under Rule 52, which gives you 45 minutes. We've even passed the 45 minutes. But we also have very, very important reports to debate. So if you miss out on a teacher, you'll debate on the next one. I'll make sure that I pick a person who has not spoken. Yes, Honorable Chibu.
Yeah, thank you very much, the Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. In the same way, I want to thank the Minister for extending invitation for this belated Teachers' Day, World Teachers' Day. The Right Honorable Speaker, when we are talking about the teacher, we need to know that a teacher matters in this world, and more so in our country, Uganda. Things relating to teaching or a teacher, the Right Honorable Speaker, there are many challenges that are facing a teacher. One, when we see the ratio of the learners to the teachers, it is really very appalling. When we go to most of these primary schools in the rural settings, you find a teacher fidgeting with over 400 pupils in just a single class. And we find when it comes to assessing these learners, it becomes a very, very big challenge. And it is the reason why today, if people are complaining about the quality of education in this country, I think that is one of the areas we need to see. Two, the issue of salary disparity. Right Honorable Speaker, we have a challenge. Last year when we went to Karamoja sub-region, it was so heart-touching when we arrived and we found the teachers were for lunch. The science teachers were eating using cutleries and they had side dish. But when it came to the arts teachers, they were dying with their portion and without using cutleries, and they were sitting in different areas. The Right Honorable Speaker, this is not a subject where we are to laugh. It is a problem in every school in this country. Like in Nebi, in most of the schools we have 2 staff rooms. Of the science teachers, they sit inside. The arts teachers, they sit under trees. Right Honorable Speaker, if we are to address the issue of education in this country, we need to open our eyes very wide and we address these issues critically. I give way for information.
Right,
Thank
Honorable
you.
Speaker, the information.
Thank you, Phyllis. Phyllis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I'd like to thank the Minister for the statement made, and I want to say that the teachers do very, very great work to this country. I am a teacher of agriculture, and yeah. So if I was teaching by now, I would be a science teacher. I would be enjoying the good salary now. But I want to say that Kaptorwa teachers celebrated their Teachers' Day on that same day. And the complaints raised are just the same as what others are saying here. But one thing which has not been touched is about the new curriculum. So they are complaining about the new curriculum, that they haven't grasped it so well, especially when it comes to the competency-based learning, that they have no projects within the school to teach the student, to use them for teaching the students. Some topics need teachers to take students outside the school compound to learn certain things, maybe in markets and so forth. But the money is not there. The transport to take them outside is not there.
There's information.
Yes, information.
There's also fiscal education.
Yeah, actually, Right Honourable Speaker, I want to thank Honourable Felix for giving way. Talking about the new and old curriculum, I was in a secondary school recently in my constituency, and teachers were deeply concerned that students in O-level are now studying under the new curriculum. And yet, just next year...
Even the exam is under the new curriculum.
Just next year, January, 3 months from today, when they cross over to A-level, they will go back to the old curriculum because they have not been prepared to start the new curriculum in A-level. So I want to thank the honourable member.
Thank you. Thank you. Honourable members, can we first hear from the minister? There is a cow here. Former cow. Yes.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I first of all wish to salute all those who have invested in education. I want to salute all those who have invested in education in this country, including the Speaker. It's a sacrifice, and also want to talk to Ministry of Education and the nation. The nation is because of its people, and we are here because of teachers. The moment you mishandle the children, you will have citizens who are not responsible. So to me, I believe this issue should be given enough time for discussion. The issue we are dealing with is so sensitive. It is so sensitive. Some of us who come from rural districts like Bududa, what we see, we are just seeing children growing or going to schools where the future is bleak. You go to school where the teacher is very hungry, imparting knowledge to children who are hungry. We have situation of urban setting. Indeed, urban setting different from rural setting. We want to subject them to same education system, examination, and opportunities become very difficult. Colleagues, we are here and we are the ones who make decisions for this country. The quality of our people, the children, is so alarming. How I wish, Madam Speaker, that we be given enough time to interrogate, to audit the education system in this country.
That's why we have a sectoral committee in education.
As I see it, the colleague raised the issue of the curriculum. We are here dealing with issues which are very, very sensitive. The children who are now, even the teachers themselves, don't know about this curriculum. I believe even the Ministry of Education officials don't know about it. And they are sending them for examination. Now, what nation do we have? As I see it, I want to thank again the gallant teachers of this country.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, honorable members in the public gallery this afternoon. Media was waiting for you because when you went for prayers. In the public gallery this afternoon, we have students of social works and social administration from Makerere University, Kampala Central. And Kampala Central, and they are represented by Honorable Medi Nsereko and Honorable Malende. Please join me in welcoming them. Stand up and we see you. Welcome, you're most welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. and our gallant students from Makerere University, the epitome of education in this country. Welcome to the August House, and we pray and hope that your visit here inspires you not only today, but also for the future, for God and my country. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Honorable Minister will get a response from you, but you need to address the issue of the teacher-student ratio, the discrepancy in payments, and the issues of the new curriculum that even the teachers themselves who are teaching are not well versed with it, the living conditions of the teachers, living conditions where somebody, the teacher stays 30 kilometers away from a school, and you get it, and then issues of children sharing toilets, the girls and boys are sharing toilets with the teachers also. You also need to look at the students feeding. Much as we are talking about UPE, USE, the students feeding, and then the discrimination between the teachers, and then we also need to look at the overall issues that members have raised. Please, let's first hear from the minister. Then.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker, and I want to thank the colleague for really raising these very critical issues that shows the importance we attach to our teachers and how we value our teachers. I really want to thank you for your passion for the teaching profession. Madam Speaker, permit me to tell this August House, as per our statistics of June 2024, on government, we have in primary education a total of 154,326 teachers, while private teachers, we have got a total of 42,043. In total, we have 196,369 teachers in primary education. While for the secondary education, we have 42,258 in government schools, while 22,660 in private, making a total of 72,918. This is the people we are speaking about. But however, there are many that we are still registering on the online system. Madam Speaker, there are 4 critical issues I wish to respond before I could go to issues raised. Number 1, it is true that yesterday we received a complaint that some of the senior 4 candidates in some of the private schools were being sent away because of school fees dues. And immediately when this information reached UNEB, they intervened to enable these candidates make arrangement with the schools, especially the parents. Before coming here, Madam Speaker, I spoke to UNEB, and I was informed that the issue that was raised yesterday, where some senior 4 candidates were sent home, has been handled, and all the senior 4 candidates are attending the examination because our Education Act of 2008 does not permit any candidate to be sent home because of school fees dues or any other balances that has not been cleared. So I want to thank you for that concern. In line with that, Madam Speaker, this is the pioneer class that is sitting...
And also maybe in line with what you're saying, when we make a budget for UNEB, the budgets are always cut. And yet, UNEB will tell you that is the money that was used, that is supposed to be used for invigilation, for training, for all those things. Why would you reduce budgets for UNEB?
Madam Speaker, thank you so much for raising that critical issue. I wish the Minister of Finance is here. It is true that the money for UNEP many times have been slashed down, and because of that, we get critical gap to manage examination during examination period. But I pray, moving forward, our plea to keep the money
We
as
need a
it is.
report from finance on why they handle UNEP the way they do. And remember, all of us pass through teachers. And
Thank
if
you.
you cannot handle UNEP the way it is expected to be handled, if you cannot finance UNEP, then where will you finance? Where will you finance? Yes. Switch on.
I will take that matter up seriously, and we will follow with the Ministry of Finance, to ensure that all the money budgeted for examination under UNEP, plus other examination bodies, UNIMEP, UBTEB, and UHEB, they are all given as per their request. But Madam Speaker, this is the pioneer for the competence-based curriculum, and the issue of curriculum has been raised on this floor. Aware that these senior 4 are going to cross to A level next year. Madam Speaker, coming up with a new curriculum which is competence-based at A level, it is a very intensive-based consultative process which demands a lot of funds. As I speak, this is a process.
You're saying the new curriculum demands a lot of funds. Why did you go for that? First of all, honorable members, you find when the students are doing exams, they are supposed to do a technical course. Somebody will say, for me, I am interested in swimming. Do you have swimming pools in schools? Do you have technical schools in all these schools? Do you have computers in all these schools?
Madam Speaker, for this very candidate class, we have an abridged version for the A-level curriculum, which this very candidate class are going to cross and embrace.
Honorable Minister, I am talking with experience. I have a school. And when students were being examined, I am told one student said, for me, I am better in swimming. Good enough, I have a swimming pool. What about others? When the kid was taken, the kid was very excellent in swimming. Now, what about other schools in Kasanda, in Chotera, in Gomba?
Madam Speaker, the issues concerning the curriculum and the competence-based curriculum permit me to bring a paper, a statement here.
And bring a paper.
Yes. Thank you.
Bring the paper on Tuesday.
We have already concluded that.
Bring a paper on Tuesday
Thank you.
that.
Now,
thank you.
Madam Speaker, quite a number of issues were raised here. But permit me to thank this August House. I want to thank August House about the issue of SACCO.
There's a procedure.
The SACCO.
There's a procedure.
Right Honourable Speaker, I did happen to chair PAC Central Government in the earlier years of this Parliament. And in one interaction with the Ministry of Education and the Curriculum Development Center, it was evident that government had not even procured schools, books, textbooks, for all the schools in this country with respect to the new curriculum. What the Honourable Minister, my sister, is raising is a serious policy issue. But it does not only stop at policy. it also crosses it into finance. I appreciate that we are part of the appointment process for ministers. If you permit, through you, Right Honorable Speaker, and this is not an area where I normally insist, even when I chaired that committee, is this not an issue where we are supposed or we should interact with the policy head of this ministry so that we have our questions answered? And the policy head of this ministry is somebody I hold in very, very high regard, the Honorable Mrs. Janet Kataha Museveni.
Let's get a report on Tuesday to that effect.
Thank you.
Let's get a report.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
It doesn't matter who presents. Let's get a report. Honorable members,
Madam
you know,
Speaker.
I was in pain the other day when they said we want new computers. And I had to get computers to put. Can you conclude and you bring your report?
Yeah, Madam Speaker, I just want to conclude by thanking this House, especially the funds that have been provided for the teachers under SACCO. I want to thank you so much because when His Excellency the President committed 2 billion for the private teachers and more funds for the teachers through the Micro Support Finance Center and the Malim Center, this House appropriated and funds were provided.
I thought you are a commissioner, you do know that when somebody is speaking, somebody...
And these funds, Madam Speaker, I think it is to support the teachers really. This issue is to support the teachers towards
Honorable
their
Mwijiche,
welfare.
you first tell that commissioner what commissioners do.
Commissioners are in charge of the welfare of members of parliament, and therefore they must do everything possible to protect other members of parliament. You don't disturb them when they are speaking.
Exactly.
And so the current commissioner is not right to disorganize a member.
Okay.
Madam, thank you so much. I think I want to wind up that I will bring a statement on all the issues that have been raised here. And I want to thank you so much for the support. I want to thank you. Madam Speaker. I pledge on Tuesday I'm going to bring a statement concerning all the issues that has been raised on this floor concerning the teachers. I thank you and I beg to submit.
Thank you. Next item. Honorable members, she's coming back on Tuesday. You will bring all those issues. Next item. It's going to be a substantive item.
Item 5A, laying of papers.
Wait a second, Chair. Right Honorable Speaker, like you said, I would like to also request the Honorable Minister to also include the matter that we've ever presented here on the university students' dropout as a result of failure to be admitted into examination rooms because they have not completed payment of their tuition. So part of that
we talked about it.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Actually, you should even talk about the dropout of students, girl child. Yes, next item. Yes, Council.
Now that she's coming with a comprehensive report, Madam Speaker, there are also reports of many applications for early retirement by science teachers. And that should also be an area to tackle because the pension is much more attractive than them keeping in school.
Thank you. Next item.
Item 5.
Come with a report. Comprehensive. Yes.
Item 5A, laying of papers. report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of Bank of Uganda for the year ended 30th June 2024.
Pursuant to Article 163 4 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda and Rule 1813 of Rules of Procedure, I will invite the Commissioner to lay the report of the Auditor General.
Right Honourable Speaker and honourable members, I beg to lay the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of Bank of Uganda for the financial year that ended 30th June 2024. Right Honourable Speaker, I beg to lay.
Thank you. Pursuant to Article 163(5) of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda and Rule 181(4) of the Rules of Procedure, the report stands referred to Committee of COSASE, that is Commission, Statutory Authorities and State Enterprises. Bank of Uganda. Thank you. And the clerk should immediately send the report to the committee. Next. There are people making noise there. Enos, you tell them. Next, yes, procedure.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, in the spirit of recognizing international days, Right Honourable Speaker, today is World Food Day. And the countries all over the world.
Yes. Next item.
Item 6, motion for adoption of the report of the Public Accounts Committee, Central Government, on the Auditor General's report on Treasury operations and consolidated financial statement of Government of Uganda for the year ended 30th June 2023.
Honourable members, on Monday 14th October 2024, we deferred the presentation of this report pending availability of the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. We thought and hoped that the Minister would be in today. It's unfortunate that the Minister is not in. Pursuant to Rule 174(4) and 6 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament, I will invite the chairperson of PAC to present the report to the House, and we will defer the debate when the Minister is in. But Honourable Love was supposed to give his statement on education, teachers.
Honourable Speaker, now that we've asked the Minister to bring a statement, we'll wait to see what she gets to present, and then we can point out those other issues. I had wanted at that time to add one or two things that I think she needs to emphasize. But let's give the Minister the benefit of doubt to bring the statement she will bring, and then we see. Honourable Speaker, I'm glad we have now moved to say that the report gets to be presented in the absence of the Minister of Finance. But I think the front bench needs to take us a lot more seriously. This particular report has been pending since last week. And the reason it kept pending, I kept nearly harassing my senior colleague, Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, to make sure he is available in good time. And each time we kept pushing it because the Minister of Finance is not available for one reason or another. Yesterday came very briefly and had to leave. That docket has got about 3 to 4 ministers. What is the problem? Maybe we need to know.
Chenga, why are you for making noise out? Call your members to come in.
So, Honorable Speaker, as I was saying, we hope that they are not trying to run away from this report, because this is a critical report on Treasury operations. We hope that this is not a ploy for them to, I don't know, submarine as far as this report is concerned. But I'm glad we'll present it and ask them to nonetheless come with a response.
Honorable members, if anybody thinks that we are going to do an omnibus adoption of that report, that is a lie. We are going to debate it. We will wait and debate that report on the floor. And actually, after you present your report, there was also a report by finance, still on treasury operations. We shall debate both reports, because there was he should have actually given it to you for you to use in your report. Please go ahead. Yes, Nathan.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the procedures I'm raising, the report on the treasury operations consolidates all the accounts of government. And the person who is supposed to be in charge of those accounts is the Minister of Finance. Wouldn't it be procedure right that, Madam Speaker, you ask the Minister, maybe in writing, to be present? Because if he presents them, he presents a report when he's not here, or she's not here, I don't know whether there's a woman minister there also. It would be us just leaving out the most vital things which the minister, who is the custodian of the treasury operations, should have had. Wouldn't it be procedure right, Madam Speaker, that you defer and compel the Minister of Finance to be here to deal with the report, because this is the consolidation of financial accounts?
Honorable members, yesterday we discussed with the Honorable Kasaija, and Honorable Kasaija took a report, a copy of the report, and requested us to have the report presented. They will come with a response to the report. Can I have the report presented?
Right, Honorable Speaker. I read the minutes and the report the last time out. Honorable colleagues, I will take you straight to page...
Honorable Nathan is a member of the committee?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a member. Right, Honorable Speaker.
Permanent member.
Yeah, Right, Honorable Speaker, we thank you. That committee, you gave us the most competent accountants in this house. They are all on that committee. From Choma to everyone else is on that committee, and they've done a commendable job.
Thank you.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I'll straight away take you to page 5 of the report. Right, Honorable Speaker, committee observation.
Madam Teacher, you're going when they are presenting your report.
The committee observed.
You're going to the baby's home.
The committee observed that whereas the revenue budget was revised to 48.13 trillion, the expenditure budget was revised to a total of 52.548 trillion in the course of the financial year, leading to unbalanced budget, Right, Honorable Speaker, of 4.4 trillion. Right, Honorable Speaker, in the financial year under review...
Honorable members, kindly help me and just listen to that report for you to understand what is happening.
Yeah. Honorable Speaker, what this means is that from the word go, the expenditure budget was not matched with the revenue budget to a tune of 4.4 trillion. Further examination by the committee revealed that in the last 3 financial years, the total approved budgets was for the year 2022-23 was 52.548 trillion. For the year 2021-22 was 51.6 trillion, and for the year 2021 was 51.62 trillion. While revenue for all those years, for the year under review, was 48.13 trillion, and for the year 21-22 was 47.2 trillion, and for the year 2021 was 48.72 trillion, leading to unbalanced budgets, which I first stated, of 4.4 trillion and 4.361 trillion and 2.9 trillion respectively, as illustrated in the table below. In the table below, right honorable colleagues, I'll put for you the budget, which was 52. I'll put for you the revenue, which was 48, 47, 48. And in the column, I've put for you a column of the monies, the balance between the revenue and the budget. And that is 4.4 trillion. In the year after, it was 4.3 trillion. And in the other year, it was 2.9 trillion. The accounting officer explained that government had set a target of enhancing revenue mobilization by 5.0% of GDP every financial year, although the implementation of the domestic revenue mobilization strategy. The PSST also explained that the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development would continue to hold NTR consultations with the respective NTR generating MDAs in order to harmonize the NTR estimates, review existing rates, charge for services rendered to the public, and consider proposals for new sources of NTR from MDAs. The committee, however, notes that the variance in expenditure and revenue budget is a recurring concern which has existed over the years. These shortfalls or failure to fund the revised budget implies that government would not fully finance the planned programs within the time, which in turn affected service delivery. The committee notes that whereas the revenue and expenditure budget estimates have continued to be projected in a rosy picture over and above 50 trillion over the last so many years, the country has never exceeded 45 trillion in expenditure performance. It is therefore these deceptive figures of the budget the government bases on to seek supplementary budget under the 3% requirement of the law. So that means these figures which they give us, 70 trillion, for the purpose is to yield a high quantity on 3%. But fully from the word go, they are aware they will never raise those revenues. The committee further notes that the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development has deliberately ignored available data and trend analysis of revenue and expenditure performance in the formulation of the budget process, which has led to unrealistic and false budgeting. The committee notes with concern that Parliament has continuously approved budgets without corresponding revenue sources year in, year out, is an indictment on Parliament for not being keen enough during the budgeting process. Because whereas the government does bring these figures, they are brought here. We pass them knowing revenue and expenditure don't match. Committee recommendation. The committee recommends that the Ministry of Finance should make use of the available data and trends in the revenue and expenditure projection during the budget formulation. 2, the committee recommends that the Ministry of Finance should continue exploring more avenues of ensuring that all budgeted revenue is realized to fund the budget as approved. 2. Parliament should initiate a process of amending the necessary laws, like the Public Finance Management Act, to tame government's appetite in making unilateral alterations in the budget figures through abusing the 3% window permissible under the current legal regime. Parliament must only approve budgets where revenue match expenditure. 2. Utilization of warrants. Honorable colleagues who may not be economists may not be knowing what a warrant is. I will endeavor to explain a little bit. Not arrest warrant. No, warrants of money. Right, honorable colleagues, out of total warrants of 4.922 trillion issued during the financial year, 49.22 trillion issued during the financial year, 43.404 trillion was spent by government, resulting into unutilized balance of 5.822 trillion, representing a performance level of 88.2% as summarized in the figure below. Right, honorable colleagues, for ministry and the government departments, the figures were as budgeted. This requires a little bit of interrogation. Was 46 trillion. For local government, 6.2. Total warrants were 43 and 6.2. Total actual payment, that is the money government paid out in a financial year. It was 47.6 and 5.6, which is 43.404, a variance of 5 trillion, which is 11%. Honorable Speaker, what this means, that government gives, for example, Parliament a warrant to spend money, and you contract work. And at the time of cashing the invoice, government tells you there is no money, and they don't pay, and generate arrears to the tune of 5 trillion. That is the implication of warrants and government's failure to match warrants with cash. The Auditor General reported that the warrants issued during the financial year were in excess of revised budget revenue sources of 48.1 trillion by a variance of 1.9. This is scandalous, Honorable Speaker, that government went ahead to warrant money less than what they expect to get in revenue by over 1 trillion. That you warrant, you say, please spend, knowing actually that you don't have the money, but you have told agencies, go out and spend, contract, and business people go out to do work for government, and government is sure as night follows day, they will not have the money because they don't have the revenue. The Auditor General noted that overall there was underutilization of warrants, of which I've already explained, of 5.8 trillion, representing 11%. Significant, and this is for you to note, significant underutilization of warrants were noted on Treasury operations, vote 130 of 2.9 trillion and 216 billion meant for development programs for local government. When they come here, they tell us that Treasury operation accounts are statutory, and they receive a first call on the budget. Yet they went ahead and failed to meet statutory obligations. The PSST, the account explained that the respective accounting officers had been requested to justify the under-absorption in addition to adjustment of their work plans for subsequent financial year to undertake the activities which were not completed. Committee observation. The committee carried out a trend analysis, Right Honorable Speaker, of the budget for the last 3 years and revealed unmatched expenditure budgets, warrants, and actual payments over the years. The committee noted that there were underutilization of 5.82 trillion for the financial year. Right Honorable Speaker, let me go straight to that table, and so that members can know the crisis we are in as a country. And I hope the people in the control room can bring that table. Right Honorable Speaker, I've put column 1 to represent, we've put column 1 because it's a committee. We've put column 1 to represent approved budget, approved revised budget. Column 2, total warrants. Column 3, actual payments, the amount of money government went out to pay for the last 3 years. Right Honorable Speaker, for the year under review, government had an approved budget of 52.548 trillion. It warranted 49. It actually paid 43.401. Unwarranted budgets funds for the year were 3.3 billion. Then the variance between the total warrants and actual payments was 5.8 trillion. But honorable colleagues, the variance between the revised budget and the actual payment was 9.144 trillion. And in the following year, those figures, Right Honorable
clarification. 2022-2023, the revised budget was 52.548 trillion.
Yes.
The what was warranted was 49.2 trillion, and what was released was 43.4 trillion.
Yes.
Then the unreleased or unwarranted. It is actually unreleased because it was warranted.
Yeah. No. The first column, Right Honorable Speaker, is the difference between the budget and the warrant, which is 3.3.
Yes.
Yes. But the difference of the
is 3 point what?
322 trillion. Because
I was making a correction because you had said billion. I wanted trillion.
It's trillion.
Yes.
And the money, the difference between the warrant and the actual payment was 5 points. Actual, okay, let's say actual release. Actual release was 5.822 trillion. And the difference between the budget and the actual release was 9.144 trillion. And Right Honorable Speaker, when you analyze the other year, the difference was 2.7. I've now gone to differences. Was 2.707. The other one was 4.90. The difference on the other table was 4.4 trillion, and the difference down was 3.257 trillion, and the actual difference in the budget was 7.2 trillion and 7.99 trillion. From the above, the committee observed the following: that a total of 3.322 trillion was unwarranted in the financial year 2022, 2.70 trillion in the financial year 2021-22, and 4.969 was unwarranted in 2021, respectively. That is the difference between A and B. The difference between warrant and actual expenditure by government was worth a 5.822 trillion in the financial year under review, 4.4342 trillion in the year 2021-22, and 3.257 trillion in the year 2021. The difference between the approved budget I've explained, the 9 trillion, the 7.1, and the 7.9 trillion. The accounting officer explained that under the single treasury account, warrants are issued anticipating the spending, indicating the spending limit, and as such, government entities are required to submit invoices with the treasury which the Treasury honors depending on cash at hand. The difference between the warrants and the payments are therefore as a result of limited cash available at any one given time. He added that cash limits were affected recently by economic shocks orchestrated by the aftermath of COVID-19, the Russia-Ukrainian war, and mostly recently, Ebola outbreak in some parts of the country. The accounting officer further explained that the unfunded budget was hampered by overly, this you should note, ambitious proposals by policymakers to provide funding for what is now known as unfunded priorities, coupled with revenues which do not match with expenditure. But the minister apologized on behalf of the PSST on this assertion, as you demanded earlier. However, the committee is concerned that government continues to warrant, well knowing it has no cash to match the payment. This uncontrolled mismatch between warrants and payments mislead accounting officers to contract and commit to payment schedules on the basis of warrants, and usually this is not honored for payment by the government. This has resulted into accumulation of arrears. Furthermore, for Parliament to continue to approve budget estimates year in, year out without predictable sources of funding is an indictment on the keenness of scrutiny and approval process of the budget by Parliament. Recommendation. The committee recommends that the Ministry of Finance should ensure that all warrants issued are supported by sufficient revenue sources to fund such warrants, and also provide guidance to MDAs in regard to prioritization of activities to the level of available resources in cases of shortfall. The committee comments that Parliament should be driven by realities and only proceed to pass the budget if the proposals by government are matched with the projected revenue sources. But sometimes, Honorable Speaker, Parliament is handicapped by what are called addendums to the budget that are brought minutes before a budget is passed. Continued approval of supplementary funding without, this is another point. Continued approval of supplementary funding without matching revenue. Supplementary expenditure during the financial year in question mounted to 4.417 trillion. Out of this, 1.437 trillion, which is 2.99%, was in respect of the 3%, authorized by the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development as per the Public Finance Management Act. The Auditor General, however, reported that the sources of funding for the supplementary expenditure was not clearly shown before approval was granted. Right Honorable colleagues, as you know, it is only the Minister of Finance at his own discretion that approved this money before he even was sure where the money will come from. As a result, the supplementary expenditure was instead financed by internal budget cuts from various votes, thus suppressing implementation of plans and activities by the affected votes. Audit also noted that a total of 4.417 trillion in supplementary budget was initiated, approved, and utilized without any involvement of the program working committee, but rather with the direct engagement with the vote. There is a risk of misalignment of programs, output, and expenditure targets, as well as undermining the implementation of program-based budgeting approach at its infant stage. The accounting officer explained that the provision of supplementary expenditure was made in accordance with Section 25 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 as amended, and affirmed that the supplementary expenditure going forward had to be restricted in line with guidance from His Excellency the President on peace, security, roads, electricity, investment in peoples of Uganda, prioritizing money earning projects, management of national resources, and international commitments.
Chair, yes, a clarification.
Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Chair, on point 4, Roman 4, continued approval of supplementary funding without matching revenue. I've looked at the figure, but the percentage 2.99 is not correct. It should be 32.5. 1.437 trillion of 4.417 trillion is 32.5%, not to 2.9%.
Of the total budget?
No. You are saying
supplementary expenditure during the financial year in question.
Yes,
mounted to
4.417 trillion.
Out of
this,
yes,
1.437, which is 2.99%. That's what I'm correcting. No.
Was in respect.
It was in respect to the,
of the 3%.
The 3%.
You get me right?
3% of the budget.
Of the 3% of the budget.
Yes.
So you've got to work upwards and find out the 3%.
How much is the 3% of the total approved budget?
Yes. Then, which is like 1.5 something trillion, which gives you this percentage.
That tells me people are very attentive.
Thank you.
Yes, very good, very good.
On the issues of money, people are very attentive. So the committee observed that whereas supplementary expenditure was, that one offense, the committee also observed that the funding of supplementary expenditure using budget cuts from various votes is illegal and undermine the authority of Parliament as an appropriating arm of government. Right Honorable Speaker, if any budget reallocation is to be undertaken, it has to be brought to Parliament for approval. The minister under the sun does not have any powers whatsoever to reallocate money and from other budgets. This is solely the work of your house, Right Honorable Speaker. And the Minister of Finance has no powers to suppress allocations to votes within an approved budget without express approval of Parliament. Recommendation. The committee recommends that the Ministry of Finance should strengthen the functionalities of the program working groups and have them involved during the process of making decisions for supplementary budgets. The committee recommends that the Ministry of Finance should ensure that all supplementary expenditure approvals are supported with the supplementary sources of financing so as to ensure that activities are implemented as planned. The Minister of Finance and Economic Planning should be held responsible and be cautioned for fiscal indiscipline, which distorts budget plans and objectives. 2. To solve the insatiable appetite of government budgets, Government of Uganda must be deliberate in reducing leakages through corruption and amplifying the effectiveness of its budget through better priority setting, targeting, and sequencing. Failure to budget for non-tax revenue on the PBS. Right Honorable Speaker, in the interest of time, this is more of a policy issue because this report is big. This one I will beg members to read so that I save time for more critical issues. Right Honorable Speaker, management of the partial development model. Still, this Parliament has had ample time in debating the partial development model. I'll beg members to read. The recommendations. Should I read the recommendations only? Only. Right Honorable Speaker, our recommendation, for example, on the Paris development model, the Minister of Finance should reconsider the criteria used for budget allocation to include the population sizes of local government, accessibility of the local government, and levels of poverty, other than just depending on number of parishes or wards. 2, there is a need to establish the total cost for implementing the PDM and align the cost to the targets. 2, the Ministry of Finance should provide and disseminate guidelines through both electronic and print media for utilization of the PDM funds for each pillar for all the local government and other ministries, agencies, and departments. Right Honorable Speaker, for the next one, I'm going to read. Accumulation of payables of 10.18 trillion. 10.818 trillion. For those who are not accountants like me, payables in this case are arrears, literally meaning. This is money government consumes and fails to pay.
Domestic arrears.
Contracts and it doesn't pay. The Auditor General noted that the domestic arrears under Treasury had increased from 8.049 trillion in the year 2022 to 10.81 trillion in the year 2023, representing a 34.4% increase, which is 20.6% of the revised budget of Government of Uganda for the financial year 2022-23. Honorable colleagues, this is money. Okay, let me read. This is an indication of failure of the commitment control system, which can expose government to litigation risks. It should also be as a result of approving supplementary budgets worth 4.41 trillion during the financial year without matching funding other than utilizing the already identified revenue sources, hence reallocating funding within the existing revenue envelope and impacting other implementing cost centers across government. The accounting officer explained that government is currently implementing a domestic area strategy to clear significant amounts of the verified money. Right Honorable colleagues, you may recall that in the budget that is under consideration, only 200 billion was allocated, where government has accumulated payables of 10 trillion. The committee agrees with the observation of the Auditor General that the trend of the accumulation is on an upward trajectory, which is obviously unsustainable. The committee agrees that as a result of approving supplementary budgets, which mounted to 4.417 trillion during the financial year under review, with no matching funding, government was forced to use the already identified revenue sources, hence reallocating funding within the existing revenue envelope and impacting MDS across government. Recommendation. The committee recommends that the accounting officer should be held responsible for committing The committee recommends that the accounting officers should be held responsible for committing government beyond the approved budgets, and the PSST should not appoint any accounting officer who have committed government beyond appropriation. But also this includes the PSST.
And you find when you have domestic areas like that, you're affecting our people, because these people will not be able to trade. They cannot be able to be in business because their money. Okotogong will tell you that his money got locked up with the government for years. So you find when they get loans, they fail to pay the loans. The banks take their property. Banks take their property because they have failed to pay loans. Yet the problem is not anybody else, but it is what?
Yeah, Right Honorable Speaker, I thank you for the observation, and you are spot on. Alarmingly, these 10 billion are for our local people. Okay? It's the
This
local
10 trillion.
This 10 trillion is for local suppliers. For the foreign suppliers, is statutory. But for the local people, they reduce it to a payable. They say it is a payable. For foreign workers, it is statutory. For the citizens, it's just a payable. And it amounts to 10 trillion.
Why don't we have government prioritize payment of the domestic debt the same way it does with the what?
Yes.
The foreign one.
Yes. So our recommendation down is that we want to recommend, because the recommendation is there, we had recommended, I don't know why it is not appearing here, that these payables should become statutory obligation on part of government. If government consumes my goods,
the same way we we protect vote 130 is the same way we should protect this one.
Yes. Thank you so much. Right Honorable Speaker, that is for your information. Right Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Pap.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to pick it right. Was that a ruling or?
No, we've
because
not
if,
gone.
if we pick it as a...
We are going for, we'll have a debate on it. I'm helping him in making his recommendations.
Madam Speaker, you may not need to go about it again. It can pass as a ruling and and the ayes have it. And we proceed.
My role is to guide my committees. So I'm guiding my committees on how. Yes.
So, Right Honorable Speaker, we have drafted, we have drafted the recommendation.
Honorable members, this is a very serious matter. Very, very serious matter. And you never know, we would even get more taxes if we had that money in circulation. Yes.
Yes. So, Right Honorable Speaker, 4.0, let's look at the public debt. 4.1, public debt portfolio analysis. Audit established that the total public debt as of 30th June 2023 stood at 97.499 trillion. Of which domestic stock, Honorable colleagues, can I beg for your
Listen.
Of which domestic stock was at 44.673 trillion, and the external debt stock was valued at 52.826 trillion. This is an increase of 9 trillion 3.29, an equivalent of 10%, 10.74% when compared to the debt stock of 86.869 trillion as reported on 30th June 2022. The table below shows the detail. Right Honorable Speaker, we've run for you the debt stock for the last 5 years as it has been rising. By the year 2019, our debt stock, honorable colleagues, was only 15 trillion. No, was only, I've looked at the last ago. Our debt stock stood at only 15.2. 50. The domestic, total stood at 46.507. And it has been growing up to 97 in the space of those years. It has more than doubled. But of interest, honorable colleagues, you should monitor the column for domestic borrowing.
The borrowing, the 97 is both domestic and external.
And external.
Yes. So we must put it, you must put clear that domestic is 44.6 and 52.8 is foreign. But when you look at the foreign borrowing here, remember you're always approving loans in this house. So the next time you approve a loan, you need to ask for a proper report.
So, from the above, the committee observed that there has been a consistent increase in the total debt as evidenced by an increase of, is it 111.7% in the 5 years, from 46 trillion to 97 trillion as of 30th of June. The net increase in the debt is due to the increased borrowing from both the domestic and external market, with the domestic debt counting for higher increase. I told you to observe the column of the domestic debt. This is majorly a fact. This is majorly a fact that is attributed to persistent budget deficits, mismatch of government revenue and expenditure. When you do these wrong things, they will come to haunt you. Consequently, figures don't lie. Rollover of liquidity papers, bond switches, private placement, new borrowings for various development projects, and foreign exchange loss arising from depreciation of the Uganda shillings against stronger currencies. Right Honorable Speaker, later on, you request me to be very slow on bond switches. Because on bond switches, when you go to treasury operation, I think there is a crisis that needs even a police investigation. But we shall reach there. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee notes that there is an increasing trend in government debt position, which leads to the reduction of variable discretionary resources for both funding development projects and service delivery, as huge resources will be directed towards debt repayment. The accounting officer acknowledged the observation and explained that the government was undertaking the prolonged approach to minimize the rate of debt accumulation, and also prioritizing borrowing on non-concessional and export credit agency terms. Non-concessional and export credit agency terms. Committee observation. The committee recommends that government should consider revising its current debt strategy with a view of incorporating more effective approaches aimed at containing the upward debt position trend. 2. Analysis of debt of external debt. We've gone for analysis of external debt. According to the Auditor General, Uganda's external debt was, let me read, I think. According to the Auditor General, Uganda's external debt as at 30th June 2023 was made up of multilateral creditors, which is 32.748 trillion, bilateral creditors, 12.9 trillion, and commercial banks of 7.146 trillion as below. This table speaks for itself. Analysis of the trend of external debt over the last 5 years revealed a linear growth in the level of external debt over the years. There has been a consistent increase from 30.9 trillion in the year 1819 to 52.82 trillion by the year 2023, representing an overall growth of 71% over the period. The details are given in the table below. Honorable colleagues, you can go through the table below. It gives you the amount, it gives you the increase, it gives you the percentages as they've come along. The committee observed that the major driver of the growth in debt is acquisition of new debt, mainly for budget support. This has put pressure on the economy and has led to further borrowing from the domestic market. There is a risk that this may not be sustainable in the short term. The accounting office explained that government was undertaking the might prolonged approach to minimize the rate of debt accumulation and also prioritizing borrowing on non-concessional and export CA terms. The committee notes that despite this explanation by the accounting officer, the trend seems to be growing every year across government ministries. Recommendation. The committee recommends that government should effectively implement the medium-term debt management strategy so as to ensure the level of public debt remains sustainable. The committee recommends that government should honor the demands of the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility, which states that government should maintain prudent and sustainable levels of public debt. That was a commitment of this government in the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility at the beginning of this term. Movement of domestic debt. The Auditor General observed that domestic portfolio is comprised of long-term borrowing, which are Treasury bonds and government bonds, short-term borrowing, Treasury bills, and government overdraft or temporal advances, quota awards, principal and interest payment. The country's domestic stock, which is mainly on Treasury bonds and Treasury bills and unsecuritized debt, mounted to 33 trillion 2.5 as of 30th June. And that one. Trends for the past 4 years of domestic debt portfolio are shown respectively in the table below. Honorable colleagues, you could read and see that by the year 1915, domestic debt only was 15%, 15 trillion. It is now 33 in a space of 2 years. So 5 years, so it has doubled. From the above, the committee notes that it is evident that domestic debt has kept growing over the years at an average rate of 18.1%. Further analysis has revealed a corresponding movement in the net domestic financing over the years as illustrated in the table below. Right Honorable colleagues, you can look at that table and you'll see the analysis. From it was 7, then it went to 8, 9, 13, up to 10. Those are bonds. And for honorable members that have money, these days you can also buy bonds because it's so lucrative of late. The interest is very good. It's very good. Instead of buying these other things, you buy a bond and an interest every month, you are good to go instead of going to a Muyindi. Domestic borrowing, I'm giving, because this government every day wants money. So if you have it, go and invest. Domestic borrowing, net is as follows. A, all government instruments that have reached maturity or redemptions are financed through debt rollover, borrowing to pay existing debt. And this has created a high dependency on the market and thus increases financing risk. Under-subscription was observed due to high-priced bids that were rejected in a bid to reduce the cost of debt. For those who are not economists, this is an indictment that even when government today puts in these papers, the market cannot respond. And it cannot yield the money it requires. And it can't finance its budget because you are dependent on borrowing. In the year, and then you keep getting issue. In the year under review, a slight decrease of 31 was registered in the net domestic financing from 4.6 trillion to 3.7 trillion. The accounting officer, I'll leave that and go for the recommendation. The committee recommends the government should consider initiating steps to reverse this trend of public debt and ensure fiscal budget discipline and promptly servicing portions of such domestic obligations, including interest. The committee also recommends that government should consider restructuring debt to acquire cheap debt and minimize debt obligation. High cost. Honorable Chairperson and honorable colleagues, this is something very tricky and I'll go slow. Continued high cost of bond switches to government. Operational framework for bond, that's why I insisted that I even put the basic understanding. Operational framework for bond switch auction 2029 provides that bonds conversion shall be done through a bond switch auction and should be undertaken by Bank of Uganda on instruction of Government of Uganda to exchange a bond with another bond for purposes of restructuring the debt portfolio, smoothing interest payment and managing debt levels during periods of reduced government financing needs. The Auditor General observed that the Treasury requested Bank of Uganda to switch bonds totaling to 1.22 trillion during the financial year under review, down from 905 billion. Can I explain a bond switch? A bond switch is where I've bought a treasury bill or a bond, but it has matured. It's going to mature on Monday. And on Monday, government is under obligation to credit my account with the money. But on Friday, government realizes by Monday, it will not have liquidity. So it comes to me and says, you know, I'm going to buy your bond. Okay? Again. At a premium, by the way, it is always at a high cost. So that on Monday I don't pay you, but now I extend your bond by another 2 years at a higher interest rate. So In the year under review, these bond switches mounted to 1.2 trillion. And down we are going to put the cost to that, what we lost at the government because of these bond switches. And the Honorable Colleague, Right Honorable Speaker, why this is the problem is that during the budget process, when we are approving the budget, we clearly budget money for statutory obligation. And they tell us it will be the first call. And therefore, and these figures are predictable. Therefore, government to shortchange in the middle of the way and now resort to bond switches. When we gave you money to cash, is an act of treachery. So because the money, we gave you the money to pay these bonds, and you have the money. Then you reach midway and say, I will not pay you, but then extend, let me stay with the loan, and without parliamentary approval. Because the Committee of National Economy approves the terms and conditions. So we don't approve the terms and conditions of these bond switches. That's why I said on this one I'll be a bit slow. Now I'm going. Let me read for you and you'll get to know what this costs government. Right Honorable colleagues, the Auditor General reported that Treasury requested the Bank of Uganda have gone through that, which resulted into accumulation of accrued interest. Listen, these bond switches resulted into accumulation of accrued interest totaling to 180 billion and 1.184 trillion in the financial year 2021-23, and we've put these figures below, honorable colleagues. You need to study those bonds very carefully and know that accrued interest, the money, because of these bond switches, we gave out 180 billion because we failed to cash. Had we cashed, the country would have saved 180 billion, which can go a long way towards development. Further analysis by the Auditor General reveals that annual increase of bond switches of 471.4 billion from 377.91 billion in the financial year to 804.9 billion in the financial year, representing 125% upward movement. As part of the approved budget of the financial year, the total cost value for the redemption of maturing debt was 849 billion, was included in the warrant. Listen, honorable colleagues, why we have investigated, right honorable Speaker, why on bond switches we have recommended a forensic audit. And this is why we've done so. In the bonds, the 849 billion, okay, which was a result of bond switch, this money had ideally been warranted. Therefore, how come this was happened? And the Auditor General didn't do a good job, but today I want to spare him because he did some commendable job. He just said there is a risk. The Auditor General just said there is risk of possible diversion of already appropriated funds. If the Auditor General tells that there is a risk, who should find out of the risk? He's paid and he hires competent firms to give us this exact risk. It is on the basis of that we have recommended a forensic audit of all bond switches, because we are detecting a diversion and possible abuse of the bond switches. There is an increased, because let me read for you and you appreciate. There is an annual auction calendar for treasury bills and bonds, approved and published in the press. However, when it comes to bond switches, there appears to be no calendar at the beginning of every financial year. You are supposed to put a calendar for these bond switches. For those who are not economists, who will find difficult, but there should be a calendar. And so government was not having any calendar. They just midway through do a bond switch, and the loss is that amount of money. Yes, the accounting officer explained that bond switches are a tool for managing high financing and liquidity management, high refinancing and liquidity management in the domestic securities market. He further highlighted that government was implementing the fiscal consolidation agenda, among others. It will involve the reduction in debt. This, over the course of time, will lead to a reversal in accumulation of domestic debt. The committee observed that whereas the intent of the bond switch is to postpone redemption of maturing debt, it creates incremental debt at a new prevailing interest rates, which are not favorable to government as it increases the overall public debt. The committee notes that long-term debt bonds typically have greater price sensitivity to changes in the prevailing interest rates relative to their short-term counterparts, and swapping away from short-term bonds may forfeit any reinvestment opportunities, which is a disadvantage and may discourage investment. Committee recommendation. The committee agrees with the observation of the Auditor General and the recommendation that the accounting officer should evaluate bond switches as a means of debt management and further develop policies that will widen the country's cash flow so as to reduce on the debt. The committee recommends that the Auditor General carries out a forensic audit on all bond switches for the past 3 financial years. Right Honorable Speaker, this is very critical because even the Auditor General is saying there is a risk of diversion. And this is in terms of billions of shillings of money. I would have we are lenient, but we should have gone straight to CI, but let's take it slow and see how they perform. Continued absence of policy to bond switch. This is now policy. I can let members read. Now, debt to GDP ratio. The debt to GDP ratio is a measure that compares what a country owes, total debt, and what it produces. The ratio reliably indicates a country's ability to pay back its debt. Therefore, a high debt to GDP ratio may make it more difficult for the country to pay both internal and external debt, and may lead creditors to seek high interest rates to compensate for financing risks due to likely default or unnecessary debt expression. The Auditor General established that a recomputerization of Uganda debt to GDP revealed a consistent linear growth over a period of 5 years, and the year under review, it noted that the debt to GDP ratio increased by 7% from 53.4 to 52.7 in the financial year under review, respectively, at the table below. Now, this by the Auditor General, Right Honorable Speaker, contradicts every figure that the government has been giving out, saying we are below 50%. The audit established we are at 53% and we are over and above the threshold. So the Minister of Finance should appear before this Parliament. He's been peddling a lie that we are below 50%. Yet the Auditor General established that we are at 53%. And we've been passing budget borrowings on the premise is that we are below the threshold. When we are above the threshold, that is unkind of the government. And I've put those figures. From the above, it can be seen that although Uganda's GDP has been increasing over the years since 1819, and its debt position has increased from the linear trend of the debt to GDP ratio analyzed over the years, there is an increasing trend in the medium term, which increases the risk, or a risk factor of accumulation of unsustainable debt. The rest you can read. Let me read the recommendation. To close the expenditure gap, the available fiscal space should not be used to cater for temporary high government expenditure that are wasteful and unproductive. Treasury should develop a clear direction for fiscal policy in adherence to the Fiscal Charter and Section 36 of the Public Finance Management Act as amended would benefit budget planning and implementation. Government should ensure efficient use of borrowed funds. The government believes that the committee believes that debt that finances productive social and infrastructure development can lead to economic growth that may ultimately offset the cost of debt service and help balance the risk to debt sustainability. The committee is saying, if you are borrowing for these other things, you can borrow. But for financing recurrent expenditure, which is now a big driver, is you are doing a disfavor to government. Interest on total revenue. Interest, this one you can read, honorable colleagues. It's more of a policy matter. Let me read the recommendation. The committee recommends that government comes up with strategies of reducing the debt to GDP rate. Right, Honorable Speaker, let me go for this one. And this one, that's where we need also to go slow. High penalty fees charged by Bank of Uganda due to failure to pay debt, which mounted to 405 billion. This were penalty that government, let me read. Let me read. The Auditor General noted that Bank of Uganda charged a total of 16.67 billion as bank charges in the financial year under review. Audit also noted that Bank of Uganda penalized government to a tune of 405.049 billion for failing to meet its contractual obligation for domestic debt that had matured in the year. Right, honorable colleagues, do you know what this means? Bank of Uganda is a bank for government. When debtors come calling on our government, the bank of government clears on behalf of government. Under a memorandum of understanding, government is supposed to reimburse Bank of Uganda on a scheduled agreed period so that they can pay back, replenish their finances. Now, what happened in this financial year? Bank of Uganda paid on behalf of Uganda. Government of Uganda failed to reimburse, and it was penalized. The full impact of it is that we are slowly failing to meet our debt obligation. Even if a what? Yeah, yeah. So, the accounting officer, this is very serious, honorable colleagues. We lost, this is a loss. We lost 450 billion, 405 billion shillings, which Bank of Uganda penalized government for failure to meet its contractual obligation. Later on, right, honorable Speaker, when we go to treasury operations, I know now we now have established the standing balance with the Bank of Uganda, which is going to 6 trillion. It's alarming. And that's why the ministers need to come here. You are failing. It's because that's why Bank of Uganda this financial year had to come for capitalization, because government was not doing its duty. Okay. And I sit on the finance committee. My recommendation to the finance committee, we've not done a good job. And I can indict myself, because we are in the Parliament of Uganda. The committee that ought to have done this is the finance committee. For it to come, and we are discovering it at accountability level, it speaks to the way we are doing business in the finance committee, and I'm a member and I plead guilty. Right honorable colleagues, the committee recommends that government should honor its obligation with BOU to avoid unnecessary penalties to enable Bank of Uganda achieve its core mandate of monetary policy and further provide banking services to government without necessarily pushing for the country into unsustainable debt. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you. Without due to even partisan line, you provided this committee with accountants in this parliament. I'm not an accountant. That when we go to financials, they established all these misgivings. Yeah, and they did a very, very commendable job. I depended on them, and I beg you not to not to take them away. Right Honorable Speaker, the next one, continued incurrence of high commitment fees. Right Honorable colleagues, these things will get to you. According to the Auditor General,
honorable members, please
commitment
listen.
fees, continued incurrence of high commitment fees. According to the Auditor General, commitment fees are paid for debt that has been contracted but not yet dispatched. A trend analysis of the commitment fees paid over the past 3 years revealed that the commitment fees have kept high. From the analysis done on the commission fees paid for the financial year under review, the following were noted. There was a decline by 44.5% between the year.
It is an incline.
This is an incline, yes.
Yes.
There was an incline by 44.5% between 2022 and 2023, worth 38.8 billion. That formed the bulk of commitment payments was made. That formed the bulk of the commitment payments was a result of loan obtained for project support in the year under review. Most of the projects which incurred commitment fees over and above 3 billion in the financial year included the following: grid rural recertification, Opuyo, Moroto 132 kV and upgrade of Rwekuya Apak Rira Road under IDB loans. And we have put down in the table here.
And remember, those projects are not completed.
They are not completed. Right,
and we paid a lot of commitment fees.
Commitment fees.
The project started late.
Yes. Right Honorable Speaker, the audit noted that at the end of the financial year 2023, undispatched loans stood at 14.5 trillion. Right Honorable colleague, undispatched loan is money we borrowed. We should have utilized. We failed to utilize it. We are paying interest and commitment fee worth 14.5 trillion. It is seated on banks.
Undisbursed loan is loan that has been committed.
Yes.
It has been you've asked for that loan.
Yes.
You've already paid. It is approved,
Yes.
but it has not been given to you. It has not been disbursed.
Right Honorable Speaker, in the financial scheme of things, the money is already given to you, but you cannot consume it. It's like, and this part is like a bank saying, I have 10 million available for you to use. It remains there, you are not using it, and you are paying interest. So it amounts to 14.5 trillion.
Where is this money coming from?
Now, Right Honorable Speaker, in the audit report,
yes,
the banks and every other institution that where that money comes from is there.
I want to get this right.
Yes.
I want to get this right. When a loan is given, you pay commitment fees as an acceptance.
Yes.
That this you've gotten this. There's acceptance fee. There's a commitment fee.
Yes.
Now, once you pay that, you have conditions that you must fulfill before a loan is disbursed to you as an institution. Now, in the process of disbursement of these loans, they can decide to disburse it by certificate or by what, in bits, in installments. Now, what I'm asking, is it the financial institutions that are giving us these loans? For instance, the one of Renkunye, say is coming from Standard Chartered. Is it Standard Chartered that has not yet disbursed?
No. Okay, you want to assist?
Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable. Right Honorable, these are funds from donors. We call them donors, but these are lenders.
Mm-hmm.
All procedures, all formalities have been met. The funds are available for spending, but we are not spending.
We have
money.
not received it to spend.
No. Right Honorable. Right Honorable. Everything, the financing agreement signed, everything is done. We are supposed to be spending the money, but it is on our side's readiness that is affecting it. Otherwise, the lender is with the money. Okay? And the reason, some of the reasons, Right Honorable,
Excuse me. There is a difference between undisbursed and unutilized. What you're talking about is unutilized. Undisbursed is different. It would be from the financial institution or from the lender to you. But now, the money has been given to us, but we have not utilized it. So we are correcting the word. It is not undisbursed. I am speaking from experience of banking.
Yeah, Right Speaker, I think we cannot...
It is unutilized.
Yeah.
We are not utilizing the money.
You are not utilizing the money. It's like all of us borrow. All of us go to banks to borrow. You sign all the borrowing and you meet all the conditions and they say you have the money.
The money is there. It is even put on your account.
It's even put on your account.
But you are not utilizing it.
But you are not utilizing it.
Yes.
In the context of undispatched under these circumstances, that's what exactly they mean. So it is our failure to a tune of 14 trillion, for which you already as government, honorable colleagues, the lending institution, once it gives you the money, it starts to say, please pay me interest and other things. So we are paying and not utilizing. That's how absurd this trend.
Right, Honorable, you are very, very right. And what these lenders are saying,
my teacher is correcting the word.
We gave you the money, but you are not using the money.
Yes.
Otherwise, we would have given this money to other willing
borrowers.
borrowers. So you must pay the commitment. You keep paying until you use the money. Thank you. Unutilized, actually, right Honorable. And
the right word is unutilized.
Yes. And Right Honorable, for the benefit of the House, in most cases what happens is that we borrow the money when actually we don't have the project design.
Exactly.
We've borrowed the money, and that's when we start designing the what? The project. And the money is lying idle. So we keep paying when we have not utilized the money. I thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
If I could just
Let's get the report. Let's finish with the report. You will debate.
Right, Honorable Speaker. That's why, Honorable Speaker, the first time I said,
members, can we listen? Isaac.
Right, Honorable Speaker. That's why in the first time I said, this report is the must read for every member of Parliament to understand how the economy works and what is the current status. Yes. Right, Honorable Speaker, the commitment fees are the result of government failure to draw down and absorb contracted government debt and the higher administration and management fees on the loans incurred. The accounting, I think this is the accounting officer, explained that commitment fees are charged by almost all developing partners as a fee for managing countries and dispatched resources. He further highlighted that payment of commitment fees was undesirable, this is the accounting officer, was undesirable, and where it occurs, it was attributed to key constraints identified in the project implementation, such as design challenges, right of way, delayed procurement, unreadiness of projects, at loan or grant contracting stage, delays in fulfilling both dispatchment and effectiveness conditions, poor project management, absence of counterpart funding, and slow land acquisition.
Yes.
That's a position of the accounting officer. The committee observed that whereas the audit revealed that a total of
when you look at the issue of absence of the counterpart funding, say government of Uganda funding, now you're looking at the Kidepo Moroto Road. The government of Uganda is supposed to contribute 5% of the total cost. And I think next time what we need to do, before we approve such a loan, we should know or approve or prove that there is counter funding before we approve such a loan.
Right, Honorable Speaker, you are spot on. The committee observed that whereas the audit revealed that a total of 112 billion was paid as commitment fees as a result of undispatched loans, that stood at 14.5%, that Parliament appropriated. This is another one. Parliament appropriated 48.99 billion towards payment, 0.699 billion towards payment of commitment fees. Exactly. We later on established that when you go to Treasury operations, that the balance of this money was money spent without approval of Parliament, and we are holding the accounting officer, who is the accountant general, to make good of the loss. But it shall reach there. The accounting officer explained that.
We are still moving.
The accounting officer explained that the 112 billion quoted by the Auditor General is a component of the broader
Chairman,
budgeted.
is the report together? The one.
Yeah, it is together. It's
Okay.
together. At the end of it, we are going to do Treasury operations. When you read them together, you know what government does in the consolidated accounts, how it affects.
Commissioner, you have a document to lay. Stop moving around like you're looking after cows.
Right, Honorable Speaker, the accounting office explained that a total of 112 billion quoted by the Auditor General is a component of the broader budgeted commission costs, which include both commitment and debt management fees, and therefore is not indicative of expenditure. He noted further that for the fiscal year in question, commitment fees had a budget of 48.79 billion and 137 billion for debt management fees, bringing a combined expenditure of those expenses to 187.7 billion. The committee, however, disagrees with this assertion and notes that commitment fees and debt management fees should be treated separately, as they have different codes in their posting, i.e. 244002 for commitment fees and 244003 for debt management, respectively. Therefore, this cannot be categorized as part of the broader commission cost. The accounting officer, therefore, failed to explain the source of excess payment mounting to 68.3.
Are you reading what I'm saying?
Eh? Yes, the accountant general, therefore, failed to explain the source of the excess payment mounting to 63.319 billion. It's a glass of water. Recommendation. The committee agrees with the recommendation of the Auditor General that government should resolve all bottlenecks hindering the smooth implementation of projects or programs and activities, and as such, increase the loan to debt absorption rates. The Accountant General, being the custodian of the PF.
First give the chair drinking water.
Yeah, the Right Honorable Speaker, the committee notes that the Accountant General, being the custodian of the PFM and all financial policies of government, should be held personally liable as prescribed under Section 79 of the Public Finance Management Act. The committee recommends that the PFM should be amended to prescribe more punitive penalties for accounting officers who defy the law. So the Accountant General here, under this section, is personally liable. Review of loan agreement. Review of loan agreements. Review of interest rate swap agreement. The government of Uganda entered into a loan agreement with the Stanbic. Thank you. The government of Uganda entered into a loan agreement with the Stanbic and Standard Chartered Bank for facilitating the payment of a loan acquired for construction of Karuma Dam. The agreement would make available to government a fixed rate in regards to foreign exchange. This would ensure that the government could ably plan and make a budget for the payment of the loan. These agreements were to run from the financial year 2018-19 across the duration of the contract, which was 7 years. Audit noted that over the 7-year period to the year under review, government has made payments. This is in millions of dollars. $36 million, 0.408153 into a return amount of US dollars, not that, of 2.579677. I don't know whether you get what we mean. Can I explain? Can I explain? Is that we've paid $36 million to a return amount of 2.589. And these figures are explained. Let me read and explain. The accounting officer explained that going forward, government would train, this is the position of accounting officer, would train officers to ensure that this subject is well understood and the best hedging options are used in derivative transactions. Honorable colleagues, this is something. The committee observed that under the current circumstances, there is a possibility the government may make a financial loss by the end of the swap period. What happened to the Karuma agreement? Let me explain this Karuma agreement. Is that we had, when we borrowed, the terms, interest would depend on the market. Now, a businessman somewhere said, I want to caution government of Uganda. So I'm going to buy this loan at a fixed rate. So that government cannot be subject to the volatility of the market at a few, and he would take the risk that when the volatility comes, it's him that pays. Okay? So it's edging. Now, the result of this is that where government was supposed to pay 36, a return amount on the edging, a bit complicated, return amount of 2. So the $2.5 million on 36 under this arrangement could be lost along the way. That's why, Right Honorable Speaker, that's the edging. But government to subject, you know, you had an agreement under Karuma, is that this money we will pay the bank that lend us money as interest vary. Then there is this other man with the money who came and told the government of Uganda, come on, me I can buy this loan, okay? And I will bear the burden at an interest. And this is what happened. Therefore, Right Honorable Speaker, there is a possibility along the way. And government is saying they don't even have staff trained in edging. But yet you are edging. You are this kind of economics. So the committee recommends the following. The committee agrees with the Auditor General's observation and recommends that government should review and assess the risks and benefits of continuity with the swap arrangement for the remaining duration. Because there is a remaining duration, which we haven't catered for. But we risk losing a huge amount of money under this arrangement. And
thank you, Senior. Senior, I'm just seeking clarification from your report whether you are privy to that businessman.
The businessman, we are not. And Right Honorable Speaker, I remember the committee, this is a tricky subject. The committee invited the PSST. The committee also, for this matter, invited Bank of Uganda. Bank of Uganda appeared, like it was up to appear at 10. One officer turned up and said, others are coming.
You know, when you're talking about issues of loans, there is a fiduciary relationship. And in that fiduciary relationship, there is non-disclosure and confidentiality. So for now, you may not go to that.
Yeah, but the question, you see, Right Honorable Speaker, the Auditor General, this report is on the website. And part of this is, we are almost reporting as is. By the way, I was so keen.
No, I am talking about the person who said we should name.
No, naming we are stopped.
You were stopped from that.
From naming. But for question, just Honorable Court, for your information, you know that kind of arrangement. And I think Honorable Nakut, our committee, going forward, the finance committee that has a duty to look at these things, we've not been doing a good job. Because I saw you getting agitated. 2, Right Honorable colleagues, penalties arising from cancellation of loans. It was identified that government had entered into a loan agreement with African Development Bank and KFIU to to borrow funds to execute Musizi Hydro Plant. The agreement imposed the specific obligation on the government, including payment of commitment fees and service charges. Subsequent to signing of the agreement, government opted to cancel the loan before completion, resulting in a financial loss incurred as a penalty for the cancellation of 5.564 billion. The financial loss is attributed to the forfeiture of commitment fees, service charges, and other penalties outlined in the loan agreement, and the details are below. The accounting officer.
At what stage was this loan cancelled?
Because it was before the project was completed. That's when the loan was cancelled. And we lost 5 billion. And the accounting officer explained that the cancellation was affected to pave way for design of other projects to benefit from the funding availed by the two partners, and further clarified that management would continue to prioritize concessional loans over commercial loans in line with the public debt management framework. The committee observed that failure to satisfy loan obligation is an expensive risk and negatively impacts on the image of government on the international scene.
So what happened? We applied for a loan.
Yes.
We paid commitment fees, but we did not take up the loan.
We decided not to take up the loan.
We decided not to take up the loan.
Yes.
And
Then
that
they
is
penalized
how.
us to a tune of 5 billion.
Yes.
Yes. Then we changed our minds, having said, further, the government is alive to the need to seek for funding to cover fiscal deficit and the need to bridge the resource gap between government expenditure.
There is a clarification.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. There is something that keeps coming up from the report, or from the remarks of the chairperson of Public Accounts Committee, Central, which I want actually to correct. In other words, is indicting almost all sector committees when reports are brought up by the Auditor General. What happens is our oversight role, or the oversight role of sector committees, is on the general performance of a sector. And the office of the Auditor General, which is the Office of Parliament, is in place to go and look at the details of the specifics of the expenditures. So you cannot therefore indict any sectoral committee, because every other public accounts committee report will definitely indict all sectoral committees, which is actually wrong.
Actually, what Honorable Chivumbi is saying, that now makes me make a ruling that all the sectoral committees should interest yourselves on the accountability reports. You should interest yourself on accountability reports of all your sectors, because for you to determine the performance is determined on financials and corporate governance. So it is a ruling, you don't have to add. All the sectoral committees must look at the accountability reports regarding their sectors. And this is very important for you to know, to see what is happening in terms of how much money did you allocate to that institution, how much money is spent, how is it helps you as a sectoral committee. And one thing that your work is not only to do oversight, but to help these institutions to run very well.
Right Honorable Speaker, I
Nathan,
thank you.
I know what you're going to say. You first wait.
I thank you.
I know. I know.
I thank you for that wise ruling. I continue. Let me go to the recommendation.
Can we finish? This is about to finish.
Yeah, I'm about to finish. Right Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker, continued borrowing of non-concessional loans for budget support.
Honorable Chair is looking at you.
They
He might ask for more cows. You let him finish.
And is a committee member.
Is the
Yes. Right Honorable Speaker, we have gone to continue the borrowing of non-concessional loans for budget support. A total is here 694 million US dollars was borrowed for budget support. The Auditor General notes that government Public Debt Management Framework 2018-2023 provides that issuance of high non-concessional and commercial borrowing, such as Eurobond, will only be to finance projects that do not only provide high economic returns other than the interest rates on the credit, but also enable government to generate sufficient fiscal return to meet the cost of the loan and foreign currency to service the debt. This is further highlighted in the medium-term debt strategy, which restricts non-concessional commercial loans to finance infrastructure and self-financing projects through on-land arrangements that have the capacity of generating non-tax revenue to enable debt repayment. Audit established that government obtained 2 non-concessional loans in the financial year under review, mounting to 739 million US dollars, which was intended for budget support instead of infrastructure development. This therefore means that government obtained external debt at non-concessional terms to finance recurrent expenditure, such as wage and administrative expenditure at a high interest rate, which repayments are to be incurred in the short term. The table below refers. So, honorable colleagues, you can see we obtained this money from Stanbic Bank and Standard Chartered Bank. Further audit noted that government obtained 4 non-concessional loans that were made for the financial year 2021-22, mounting to 4.93 billion shillings to finance recurrent expenditure, implying this is a recurrent practice, which is against the other framework I talked about. Right Honorable Speaker, the accounting officer explained that in line with the public debt management framework and medium-term debt strategy, high non-concessional and commercial borrowing, including budget support, had been restricted to financing infrastructure projects that are within the financial budget, with the annual budget. He further highlighted that government would continue to prioritize concessional loans over the commercial loans in line with the public debt management framework. The committee observed that non-compliance with the public debt management framework as a debt control mechanism exposes the government to unsustainable debt levels, resulting into high cost of debt from commercial loans as opposed to concessional loans. Right Honorable Speaker, the accounting officer failed to explain with evidence the justification for obtaining 2 non-concessional loans mounting to 739 million US dollars, which was intended for budget support, i.e. because he stated the policy, then diverted from it to fund infrastructure, to fund recurrent expenditure such as wage and administrative expenditure at a high interest rate, which repayment are to be incurred in the short term instead of the infrastructure development. The committee recommends that the accounting officer should obtain concessional loans in line with the public debt management to ensure that government borrowing is subject to favorable terms. Right Honorable Speaker, Government and Ministry of Finance has been on this floor saying we don't borrow for budget support, but right now we've driven our finances to such bad level that we are even borrowing from outside to pay for wage. Effective NPA retrospective approval projects funded by the loans after cabinet restrictions. Honorable, that is more policy. You will read. Domestic areas. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee is concerned that the trend of domestic areas has continued to escalate at an average of 16% in the last financial year. I think we tackled the domestic area in our general analysis. I will only go to a recommendation. The committee recommends that PSST should honor the warrants from accounting officer that should not suppress the budgets. Now this one. Right Honorable Speaker, failure to obtain appropriation for bonus paid to URA worth 11.3 billion. The Auditor General discovered that during the audit that URA requested and paid 11.6 billion as a bonus for a period of 21-22 for meeting the revenue target for the financial year under review. Paragraph 4A of the policy and procedures of repayment of bonus to URA staff says that the staff shall be entitled to a bonus only when URA exceeds the government set revenue for a specific financial year. This payment, however, was done without the necessary parliamentary approval for supplementary funding as required under Section 25 of the Public Finance Management Act. Right Honorable Speaker, this URA bonus is lawful. Yes. Under the agreement, we need to be very clear on where we are faulting the URA. Treasury. When URA meets its target for a revenue under the agreement they made with the government, they're entitled to a bonus. This year they were entitled to a bonus worth 11 billion because they corrected revenues over and above what was set for them. But their problem is that, let me read.
Let me first see my guests off. In the public gallery this afternoon, we have pupils and teachers from Ntala Primary School from Budiope West. You're most welcome. Thank you so much for coming and smartly dressed. They are represented by Honorable Choto Ibrahim. Honorable Choto has just been here. He's around. And Honorable Nakato Mary Annette. Honorable Nakato is also around. You're most welcome and thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Right Honorable Speaker, the problem here is that this money was not budgeted for. Okay.
On the bonus, I see originally the figure is 11.63 billion, but what the minister permitted them to retain is 14.676 billion. I need clarification on the change of the figures. When URA requested for 11.6 billion as bonus, but the minister permitted them to retain 14.6. I need that clarification. So the additional 3 billion is from where?
Yes, you are right. You are right. But see, I don't invent my own figures. I go by the figures as audited. The Auditor General noted that the bonus was for 11.6. The Minister of Finance authorized them to retain 14 billion. All of it was not for bonus. But subject, the minister was very clear, subject to seeking parliamentary approval through a supplementary budget. Yes, the minister was supposed. So for the URA acted lawfully. They got the money, they did the needful, the minister authorized them, but you see, under the law, a supplementary budget request is initiated by the user agency. Yeah, in a request,
the end user.
The end user. The Minister of Finance doesn't himself generate a supplementary request. It is URA that should have requested for finance to get a supplementary approval from Parliament, which was not done.
Chair, that doesn't answer my question. I am asking if URA requested for a bonus of 11.6 billion, what informed the minister to allow them to retain 14.6 billion? What is the additional?
But that's what the minister, what is that? That's what the chairman is saying. That question can best be answered by the minister, not by the chairperson.
Yes. So it's even written here. That's why we are very clear. We are reporting as is. So the committee recommends that the executive should desist from taking on the role of Parliament and strictly seek for approval for any supplementary expenditure. For irregularly retaining and paying 14.6 billion as a bonus to URA, the accounting officer of consolidated accounts of government should be sanctioned. One, severity of which can be decided by the House.
Sanctioned? Accounting office of where?
Of the consolidated account.
Okay.
Of consolidated account. Who is the Who is the Minister of Finance? Should be. We are saying the severity of what you can sanction should be done by Parliament. This is to deter him from further acting in contempt of the House. So we want the Minister of Finance to decide what to deal with him. Not to take over the role of finance, because he okayed it. He said pay and didn't, there was no approval from Parliament. So we are saying the Minister of Finance should be held accountable. Accounting officer. Right, honorable colleagues, the next item, absence of the national research agenda. That one is more policy. You can read. Let me go to Treasury. Operations is small. It's another vote. That is vote 130. I've dealt with the vote of consolidated account. Treasury operation. Treasury operation is a statutory vote mandated to handle the operations of public debt with reference to creating and maintaining a high quality and updated database of government debt portfolio. Timely debt recording, reporting, disbursement, requisition of external resources, and debt service. During the financial year, the vote had an initial budget of 15 trillion 307. Okay, 15 billion.
You put.
Should be trillion because this is in billion.
Okay, correct.
Yes, I'm right. This is billion, so the 15 is trillion. So during the financial year, the vote had an initial budget of 15.38 trillion, which was later revised to 16.8 trillion. That is one vote through an additional supplementary budget of 1.424 trillion. Debt service payment mounted to 16.3 trillion. Contingency fund management mounted to 62 billion. And claims payment mounted to 408.3 billion. Treasury operations received 16.56 billion, which was 107.2% of the total budget. 16 is trillion. So it almost received all the money it requested for. The table below will show. Under provision of contingency fund, Right Honorable Speaker, this is a recurring issue. It is an indictment on Parliament. The committee observed that whereas the accounting officer notes that the contingency fund of 62 billion, section 26(1) of the PFM provides that contingency fund should be equivalent to 3.5% of the appropriated annual budget of the previous financial year. This implies that contingency fund for the financial year 2022 would have been 1.56 trillion. The committee observed that contingency funds have never been replenished with the required funds, which undermines the purpose for which this legal provision was established. Absence of strategic plan is more issue, which I'll leave. Then I go to failure to budget for NTR. I will also jump that. It's not very contentious. Failure to fully, Honorable Speaker, this one you have an interest, because Parliament was held at ransom during this financial year and almost caused a crisis. But let's read at what Treasury did. Failure to fully utilize supplementary funding. The Auditor General noted that out of a supplementary funding of 1.426 billion realized during the financial year, Treasury did not utilize funds to a tune of 777 billion as detailed in the figure below. You remember this because I was in the budget committee. I know the history. The budget committee had reallocated some of this money. Treasury made all the necessary noise, says we need this money badly. It is a statutory obligation. We have to pay it. Parliament passed a supplementary, paid them the money, cut from other pressing needs, only for them not to spend 777 billion after all that fuss.
And what were reverse was 750.
The reverse was 750. Therefore, the budget committee was spot on saying the money you want is excess, you will not spend it, let's utilize it. Now, at the end of the financial year, they are not done the needful. And you know the crisis and the dust this raised in this financial year, because I'm privy to what happened. While meeting the committee, the accounting officer admitted to this under-absorption and attributed it to initial budget cuts by Parliament, you remember, during appropriation. However, further attributed this to cash flow constraints and non-conclusion of some anticipated projects like the CGR Kampala Expressway, which had huge amounts of management and commitment fees. The committee notes that the question of poor absorption of funds for projects is being exacerbated by poor accountability for funds, as dispatchment of any of the project funds usually depend on the utilization and full accountability of prior leases. Others are poor contract and project management and implementation, changes in the design of projects for which money is already borrowed. Commitment to multiple projects and lack of capacity within government to implement some of the projects, hence rendering them white elephants projects. With this budget performance, therefore, it can be deduced that the supplementary budget was approved without fully identifying funding sources, and that subsequently the supplementary warrants were funded using resources meant for ministries, departments, and agencies and local government, leading to budget shortfalls in some votes. This therefore becomes a diversion of funds for which it is illegal. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends that government should explore the possibility of warranting funds based on the manner variable in the consolidated fund. The accounting officer should adopt prudent budgeting principles by periodically reviewing its priorities against the available funding and ensuring that all supplementary appropriations are supported by new available funds. Escalating domestic areas. I'm coming back to escalating domestic areas now in treasury operations, much as you looked at it in consolidated funds. These are two different votes. The Auditor General carried out a trend analysis of the domestic area stock, which revealed an upward movement of areas from 4.5 trillion in the financial year to 16 trillion, 6.4 trillion in the year 2022. This is an increase of 34 from the last year's position. The accounting office attributed. Here we found a contradiction, honorable colleagues. Remember, we said domestic areas were 10 in a consolidated what? Account. But when you came to treasury, because not everything was being paid for under treasury. So members should not find, say, the other time you said 10. Not all domestic areas are under treasury operations. These are the ones under treasury relate to debt payment. So they were that much. The committee notes that even though the government has made annual budget provisions to pay areas, the stock continues to rise. In fact, the total debt stock as of June stood at US dollars 23.7 billion compared to 21 billion in December of 22. This money is in dollars. In the next financial year, government has allocated 217 billion to clear domestic areas, which are its obligations towards local contractors who supply goods and services to government departments and agencies. The escalation in the areas stock signifies lack of fiscal discipline. That one we have tackled. A vote should not take any, this is the recommendation, a vote should not take any credit from any local company or body unless it has no unpaid domestic areas from a date in the previous financial year, and it has capacity to pay for the expenditure from the approved estimates as appropriated by Parliament for that purpose. We are stating a law in this principle. That's what, so accounting officers who go out of their way, when they have not paid the debt for the previous year and continue to pay, they are against that law. Right Honorable Speaker, Lubowa. Okay, let me read the recommendation under that one before I go to Lubowa. The committee recommends, therefore, that the accounting office verifies the stock of domestic areas, allocate resources within the period of 3 months of adoption of this report, and clears all the areas on the first in, first out basis. Right Honorable Speaker. Yeah, this is very critical, because while you have all these domestic areas, we are realizing that the accountant general can cherry pick. Okay? Say for you can be paid. You find those that have debt for this year are paid, while those ones. So we are saying the principle should be first in, first out. That will enable a smooth flow on payment. Going forward, accounting officers who obtain accumulative areas should be subject to sanctions as envisaged under Section 79 and 80 of PFM. Sector committees of Parliament should pay more attention while scrutinize the budgets of MDAs within their purview to ensure domestic areas are recognized and budgeted for in the expenditure framework.
Thank you.
So, because as you bring the budget committees, please ensure that these domestic areas are paid for. Lubowa International Hospital. The government of Uganda contracted...
By the way, Lubowa International Hospital is going to surprise all of you. We are actually beyond ring beam. The construction is going on. By the way, there is a report. The construction is moving on, and I'm telling you this. It's going to surprise you.
Honorable Speaker, can I read the report? The government of Uganda contracted Finis Construction PSVMS Limited through Project Works Investment Agreement in May to
Dr. Kefa has something.
To undertake the design.
Dr. Kefa.
I just wanted to mention that actually it has been repeated over and over again that Parliament has not been allowed to visit Lubowa. But
for me, I visited it.
And I'm sure Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi knows it, that the Committee of Finance visited Lubowa. And there are a number of members who are here, including the opposition, who visited Lubowa.
Yes.
And actually we found men
Doctor,
there working.
Thank you for the clarification. And I am telling you, Honorable, I am going to go with the lob to visit Lubowa.
Right, Honorable Speaker, whether Lubowa is built...
But this is on a serious note. Another contractor was got, and the construction is going on. This one I must tell you. And the progress is...
Right.
It is not who has said. I am talking with authority.
Right, Honorable Speaker. Right at the
yes, go ahead. Can you summarize?
Right, Honorable Speaker. On Lubowa, let me say it. Let me go to. Consequently, government signed a promissory note purchase agreement in December 2018 with the Ministry 2018 with the Ministry of Health as the implementing agency, Africa Export-Import Bank, Trade and Development Bank, TDB, Barclays Bank Limited, among others, to fund the project to a tune of US$ 379 million. The project and its funding and execution modalities were approved by Parliament.
$379.7 million.
That is 1.5 trillion, approximately. The Auditor General made the following observation. The financing modalities of the project was designed in such a way that project developer, the developer Finis Construction, enters into a financing agreement with government, which government then serves as collateral to secure financing to implement the project. Upon completion, the project works per period by the developer. Subcontractor works are validated by Ministry of Health and milestone completion certificate issued. The Ministry of Finance then issues and later redeems the matured promissory notes to the constructor for the works already undertaken. 1. To date, government has redeemed 7 promissory notes, that by the time of audit, with a face value of US dollars 133.6 million. This translates into a financial performance of 35.2% of the total project cost of 379.71 million. The eighth promissory note, worth 22.7 million, is due for redemption on 31st December 2023 in line with amended PWIA. Unsupported milestone certificates worth 206.42 billion. This is where we have an issue. The auditor found an issue. Section 5.3 of the signed agreement provided that remuneration of the construction works of the specialized hospital will accrue upon the achievement of each milestone and issuance of a milestone certificate, MCC, by the owner's engineer, and will be payable through promissory notes to be issued by Government of Uganda with the face value determined in accordance with approved cash flow forecast. Audit noted that while the owner's engineer issued milestone certificates based on progress reports issued by the contractor, the owner's engineer had limited access to the construction site, which undermined his role of protecting both Minister of Health and Minister of Finance interests. Audit further noted that milestone certificates were largely based on reports submitted, contractors' engineers' consultation fees, and not on physical works completed. A total of 7 promissory notes worth 100 and repeat have been paid by Treasury to not financer. However, the Auditor General reported that the owner's engineer had certified only 23% of the completed works, valued at US dollars 357.4700 million, causing a possible, this is honorable colleagues where there is a crack, causing a possible overpayment of $76 million, approximately 286 billion as an overpayment. The committee shares the fears of the Auditor General that the method adopted by Government of Uganda of providing promissory notes based on milestone completions issued by the owner's engineer, who does not have complete access to the construction site, may lead to payment of no works done or an overpayment. While meeting the committee, the accounting officer explained that all payments were supported by certificate of owners, engineers, and government duty was to honor the promissory note that had due dates, binding him to redeem without fail. The committee notes that government did not do proper due diligence on the agreement and the project as a whole, which has led to doubts on the payment made vis-a-vis the amount of works done. Despite asking for documents relied upon to make payment, the committee was only availed copies of promissory notes and not the milestone completion certificates, upon which Accountant General relied on to honor the promissory note. The committee could not ascertain the extent of works at the site, as its numerous attempts to visit were frustrated by project developer, and therefore cannot ascertain if there are any works being carried out at the site. This is therefore a ghost enterprise, and the possibility of Ugandans losing money under this project.
Honorable Chivumbi, there was a correction from Dr. Kefa that the numerous stoppage of members from going to the site. And he says you visited, Committee of Finance visited the site.
I don't know.
So that shouldn't be.
No.
What we need to do is to query the amounts, the variances. But you see, one thing is, when the chairperson of a committee is getting out of Parliament, we'll always write to the Speaker to ask for permission. I never got a letter from you asking for permission to go to Bulovoa. Even when LOP is going, you will write it to me. LOP wrote to me after. LOP wrote to me, but this time we are going together.
Right, Honorable Speaker, without dwelling on...
anyway.
Without dwelling on...
On the issue of Lubowa.
No,
on the issue of Lubowa.
Let's go to our recommendation.
Yes.
Right, Honorable Speaker, because the committee, he knows I went to Lubowa with him as a committee member. But that was long before this came up. The committee therefore recommends that Lubowa project works be halted until Parliament pronounces itself on the special audit report by the Auditor General, yet to be presented to Parliament. But Honorable Speaker, on this one, let me be emphatic. The Auditor General carried out a forensic engineering report on Lubowa. And our effort for the Auditor General to release this report has failed. While the Auditor General was presenting to you this audited report, I have a video version. He said, right, Honorable Speaker, I have a complete report on Lubowa, special report. To date, that report has not been provided to Parliament. And I think Parliament ought to look at that report. The Auditor General is an office of Parliament. He can't do work on behalf of Parliament, and he does a cover-up.
I'll ask Auditor General to bring the report and forward it to the relevant committee.
Yes. 2, all those found to be culpable for causing financial loss must make good on the losses by refunding all the funds. The owner's engineer should be charged in the courts of law for issuing false certificates of completion. Those are our recommendations on Lubowa. Right, Honorable Speaker, failure to adequately budget for mandamus and court awards. Mandamus and court awards. Right, Honorable Speaker, this one I better read because the Accountant General is at fault. The Auditor General reviewed the expenditure of the entity for the financial year on IMF infamous and discovered that a total of 457.9 billion was paid in respect of different court awards. Of this amount, a total of 240.
Do you have the law firms that they paid them those monies?
No.
Interest yourself.
All right. Yes, we will, sir.
Interest yourself.
We will, madam. Out of this amount, a total of 248.998 billion formed part of the supplementary budget for other domestic areas. This indicates that 102 billion was spent over and above the amount appropriated by Parliament for the payment of court awards. Worth to note is that at the beginning of the financial year 2023, the bookstore balance of court awards and compensation stood at 1.473 trillion. However, a review of the budget appropriation for the financial year revealed that 106 billion was approved for payment of court awards and compensation, and 106.6 billion was warranted. The committee notes that while the accounting officers noted this anomaly during the audit process by explaining that during the financial year, 320 billion was appropriated to cater for the court awards, and a supplementary budget of 88 billion provided to cater for other domestic areas. He refuted the findings of the Auditor General during the interface with the committee. By implication, therefore, the assertion by the accounting officer during audit means that whereas the supplementary budget of 1.4 billion was appropriated, no provision was made for court awards, and therefore the payment made was over and above was what was warranted. This, therefore, a diversion for funds for which the accounting officer was not authorized to carry out. The committee recommends that the accounting officer, who is the Accountant General of Government, should be held liable for failure to fully budget for court awards and diverting funds contrary to Section 22 of the Public Finance PFM and without authority, which exposed government to unplanned expenditure. Right Honorable colleagues, observation on the financial statements of Vote 130. This is the work done by the accountants I talked about. The entity's statement of appropriation reported an actual expenditure of 144 billion, while the cash flow statement indicates a figure of 14.99, hence a variance of 129.33. This could not be justified by the accounting officer to the satisfaction of the committee. Further, the statement of financial performance reports an expenditure of 16 billion on goods and services, which gives a variation of 1 billion 668 million as indicated in the statement of outstanding commitments. The committee notes that the entity spent over and above what was appropriated, hence committing government to areas. Grants and other transfers to other organizations. A statement of appropriation reported on actual performance of 0, meaning there were no funds appropriated to grants and other transfers under this entity. Whereas the cash flow statement indicates an expenditure of 3 billion. Is this 3 billion? 3 trillion. 3.945, which is as well reported in the entity's statement of financial performance. The accounting officer could not explain the source of money used, yet none was appropriated by Parliament. And as per the amount of outstanding commitment, only 2.9090 is reported for transfer to other organizations. Other expenses, redemptions, external stamp and domestic. The entity's statement of appropriation reported an actual performance of 8.599 trillion, whereas there was no expenditure report on both the entity's cash flow statement and statement of financial performance. Therefore, the reconciliation between total expenditure per appropriation account and statement of financial performance indicated total expenditure of 14 trillion 367, while the statement of financial performance indicated total expenditure of 10 trillion 1039, and yet these figures could not be balancing after reconciliation. To appreciate these inconsistencies, the committee needed to further examine the trial balance which had not been provided to the committee, and reconciliation on the figures and reconciliation was not done. The committee recommends that the Auditor General verifies these figures and make appropriate remedial recommendations to the accounting officer. Conclusion. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, there is urgent concern on the cost of debt service payment, which has continued to increase in terms of commitment as a result of government failure to draw down and absorb contracted government debt and the high administration and management fees on loans incurred. The Auditor General noted that 112 billion was spent on commitment fees paid alone in the financial year in question, which was over and above the appropriated budget. This is too high by any stretch of imagination. We should therefore be of what should further be of concern to this House and the country is the worrying trend of supplementary budgets and the unquestionable appetite for borrowing by government. Government is borrowing money and failing to utilize, as noted in this report. Out of a total warrant of 49.226 trillion, only 43.4 trillion budget was spent, indicating unutilized funds of 5.8 trillion. This means, therefore, there is no need for supplementary budgets. After all, government just needs to match its budget with clear sources of funding at the first instance of budgeting.
Thank you.
It is therefore my prayer and that of the committee that this report is recommended and adopted by this House. I beg to report.
It's considered. Thank you. Thank you so much, Honorable Government. We said we cannot discuss this report because we don't have a Minister of Finance in the House. And since it is a technical kind of report, we want figures. When you talk about figures, you must have a response with the figures. So my suggestion is we give government, you've gotten the report. We want a response from you.
Right Honorable Speaker, if I am not mistaken, subject to confirmation, this could be the first time that this watchdog committee is presenting a report on the audit conducted on our consolidated fund. So as a parliament, we want to commend you, Right Honorable Speaker, and the committee for exercising that oversight. Two, I also wish to, in a very special way, because I know the Auditor General is an employee of government. He is an employee of government. Parliament is part of the three arms of government. Now, the Auditor General, we all know, provides the raw material upon which the committee anchors its report. So that implies that officer of government, that employee of government who provides the raw material also deserves to be saluted by this House. Because the Auditor General provides the financial checks and balances, including assurances. Right Honorable Speaker, subject to your guidance, I know matters of figures, if you remove 1 0 or add 1 0, the implication is enormous. And we do not want to attempt to respond to this report. I therefore pray on behalf of the front bench
that you give the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development 21 working days. That translates to 3 weeks for purposes of the ministry compiling a comprehensive rebuttal or responses to the issues raised in order for us to be in agreement. I beg to request, Right Honorable Speaker, subject to your guidance. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable members, we are going for budget framework paper. And before we go for the budget framework paper, we need to understand what we have been having. And by the 21 days, we would already be there in the budget framework paper. So, I expect the Minister of Finance to bring a response to this House on 24th. On 24th of October 2024. I am still making a ruling. Proceed on what? I am saying I want a report on 24th October 2024 before we go for budget framework paper. Okay?
Right Honorable Speaker, subject to your ruling, I equally undertake to transmit the report of the committee entirely tomorrow before 11 o'clock, indicating to them that the responses are needed by 24th, or on 24th, not by, but by. They can even decide to bring the following day. The latest date is 24th October 2024. I commit. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. The House will be waiting for your feedback, and based on that, Government Chief Whip, I request to have a meeting tomorrow. I want to have a meeting tomorrow with the Prime Minister, your good self, Attorney General, Public Service, Agriculture, Minister, Minister of Works, Minister of ICT, Minister of Constitutional Affairs, Finance, Minister of Water and Environment, and all the chairpersons and vice chairpersons of RAPEX bills at 11 in the conference hall. That's number one. Number two, Professor, these chairpersons of sectoral committees don't attend the House. And they wanted the leadership. They wanted leadership badly. I want the list. Professor is my whip. I give him to. I want a list of members who attend, the chairs who attend the House. Okay? I need a list of the chairs who attend the House. At least I'm happy my chair is there, of Bukedea. Honorable Member, Baka is also there, Defense is there, ICT, innovation and finance, Honorable and HIV, equal opportunities. Dr. Chut, honorable members, I really want to thank the committee of Park Central for a very, very elaborate, good report. I'm impressed. I am impressed. All we wait for is a response, and we will debate on that report exhaustively. I now adjourn the House to 2 tomorrow.